All right, we're back again.
I'm back again here with paddles up. Is perfection raining on your parade? If you hear on here, you can hear the raindrops on our roof, and we like it. It's kind of a nice ambiance, and so we'll have this ambiance going on. But we want to talk about the subject today of unobtainable, the trap of perfection.
Oh
And
boy.
I think this has been really pressing on a lot of us in this, just the changes with COVID and just the stirring up and feeling the pressure of man, I need to learn this new thing because I don't want to go back into what I used to be involved in. And man, I've got 18, 20 years in that profession or that career. And now all of a sudden I've got to jump online on YouTube and Google and learn all these new things and update all my computerware and all these different things. You can just feel what a lot of us are going through on any different level of anything that we feel we're being redirected in or called to, and being given this downtime, so to speak, many of us, during COVID and just in general with the shift of the earth right now. There is this turning of the ship. There is this kind of a low time, and we're having to make a choice because we know it's not working going back. That is heavy. Going backwards, it's just heavy. What we knew isn't working anymore, right? And so we're being literally forced to change into engaging into the next phase of our life, and how to begin to find ourselves in that. And I don't know about you, but I know it's for me, it's hard sometimes where I can get in the trap of perfection and feeling incapable, or where something's just unobtainable. So like, for instance, a lot of you guys know I'm a writer, and same with John. And so have my iPad Pro, and I've been trying to get the right software and platform for the editing, because for some reason it's not receiving our premium with Grammarly. And then with Microsoft Word, you have that as well, and Pages. And so there's all these different things. So I was searching on YouTube, what are the tips and tricks and hacks of getting the best platform for writers to use on their iPad Pro. And so I was just on this whirlwind spin trying to locate the right information. And there's just so many different tips and ideas and ways of doing things out there. You hit overwhelmment, right? And you feel like, oh my gosh, this is unobtainable. And you get hit with the trap of perfection. And then what happens, right? We burn out, we plummet out, we feel like failures. Why should I even exist? This is too much to learn and keep up with, because everybody's got the latest new trend or new idea, because they're got to keep their websites going or their podcasts going, right?
And so what happens is, we don't know about you, but what happens to us is, and this happens to a lot of creatives actually, you get overwhelmed and you just shut down and you want to go eat some tacos
and feel like a failure.
And you feel like a failure because it's like what's the point? There's too complicated, there's too much, without realizing, wait a minute, it's like Rome wasn't built in a day. That whole situation. It's like, okay, what you do is you assess the structure, the dream, the idea, the vision, and there's no way you're going to get it done overnight. It's not meant to be done overnight, right? Unless you're literally in a emergency situation, right? Even that's patching. So it's the slow, steady improvement that we talk about, the Kaizen way that the Japanese have adopted, and then you won't get overwhelmed. But here's the trap of 3D, third density thinking in the ego. It says, I have this big vision, or I'm made to feel like I need this massive vision, because everybody in America and the Western nations, it's like you go big or go home, right?
Yeah.
So then you look at this big thing and you're like, man, time's ticking, time's wasting. I don't know how.
Out there. I got to get my voice out there. I got to get my gift out there.
I don't know how many times we've struggled with that in the past, thinking, I've got to get it out there. I got to get it done. I mean, I got to get this book done. And without realizing that is all 3D egoic stuff.
Right.
Because God is not pushing us.
Nope.
We're not being forced to get something done overnight. It's more relational with Him. So because it's relational with God, it's the moments by moments that we cherish. So when you're getting overwhelmed with that, and you're like, man, I got to get it done. And I go, ooh. And she catches herself, right? But we help each other. We go, ooh, did you realize what you just said? And she does. But it's like, oh, you're saying, okay, why do you have to get it out there again? Why? Well, I want to help somebody. I want to contribute. I want to feel like I matter.
Well,
you know?
And then for me too is feeling responsible for just what God has given me to share. That's
another thing. Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, I know you've told me several times, God, not to forget about releasing these things and my writings and things that you've shared with me. And so I'll feel this responsibility. And right now I have some downtime. And so I'm really wanting to utilize that and implement it and be productive. I mean, listen to all these terms, right? And it's not working. And I don't know about for you guys, if you're going through this too, if it's not working, it's because God is more interested in the development going on internally in you, and the outside stuff can wait. If there's not a flow, we have to learn to let up, paddles up and go away and find out, okay, what's underneath this. And so I had to do that 4 times yesterday with the Lord. And he's just like, come away, go take a nap, lay down, rest, and let's just talk about this. And I had to just calm my breathing down because I was just getting hit. It was the pressure. The pressure of this was bringing me purging internally of what was underneath, the need for support, stability, and then all of the expectations we place on ourselves, right? This is where it's the unobtainable perfections and statistics we place on ourselves, trying to compete with society or be enough. And I was feeling so incapable, not being able to understand the new terminology or all these different sites and what's the best one and why are these so complicated for writing and all these different things. And why isn't it working? It should be simple. I know there's something out there, that I can do to just simply edit my book here. And it just wasn't pairing up. So went away with the Lord and just having to just relax and release. And something we've learned over the years from an awesome guy named Kyle, he's really shared about you're allowed to feel this way. You're allowed to feel this way because otherwise we keep ourselves held in a shame and guilt vibration because it's unobtainable, right? And so I went down. I'm like, okay, Papa, just share with me, talk me through this. What do I need to allow that I'm putting such heavy judgments on myself? And so I just started walking through. I'm allowed to feel incapable. I'm allowed to be in the unknown. I'm allowed to feel the uncertainty. I'm allowed to not know. I don't know why we have this thing a lot of times where we have to know everything before we try something.
Right.
And it's not how it works. You learn by trying. And, Kyle, in one of his messages, he said, we don't go around to 2-year-olds or toddlers and saying, you need to know everything there is to know how to walk before you start walking. And put all these expectations that are unobtainable till they actually start walking and learn how to do it as they go.
Yeah, and what's coming to mind is when you meet somebody, say you're dating or you just meet a friend that you don't really know or barely know, and you go out and you say, okay, let's go to a, quote, quiet spot so we can have a conversation. So what do? You go to a coffee shop, for example, and you get in there and, it's somewhat quiet, but then it gets noisy because people start coming in. Then somebody drops a glass. Then somebody, some annoyance comes by who's talking real loud on their phone and they're sitting next to you. You're like, okay, where do we go now? But normally what happens is you just endure it and you walk through it. And there's this noise, there's this clamor, there's no perfectionism going on. Everything's unorganized. So what do? You go into it not having everything perfect, but you go into that conversation and now you're getting to know that person and you don't know everything about that person. You don't know everything there is to know. It's called discovery phase in sales. You're in discovery phase. And discovery phase sometimes gets messy and it's not perfect. And it's like right now we're recording on this little metal foldable thing that's holding our iPhone on top of a plastic laptop tray, laptop tray, and the laptop tray is on top of our recliner
balancing
chairs.
on the arms of our recliner.
We're sitting here with blankets on our laps, lap blankets, and we haven't gotten ready for the day yet. We woke up a little while ago, and we're just sitting here, not perfect. Like if you were to see us on video, you'd be like, oh, well, they're not all made up. They're not Hollywood makeup time right now. They're not made up on the set. So what are we saying? It's, you just start somewhere.
You're allowed to.
You're allowed
to. Oh man, it's
look messy.
Such a huge release. Such a huge release.
You're
allowed to.
Yeah, and here's another example. Is I've been a part of a couple of, more than that, but just say recently, a couple of brand new senior living builds where we build these new communities, and they're
$1 million,
large,
big, huge,
multi-millions.
Yeah.
There's like one of them was like a 20 million. It doesn't matter. They're just big, right? So one of the main things is for residents that have put a deposit down, is they're like chomping at the bit saying, when can I get in that building to measure, because I'm downsizing from a 4,000 square foot house to a 2-bedroom apartment, for example. And they like call every day, and they're like, hey, when can I get in there? When can I get in there? When can I get in there? I say, well, it's not built all the way yet. So it's one of these things where people see things in their mind, like we can all see somewhat to a degree of the finished product, but on the way to the finished product, nobody knows everything yet. Even the builders, they run into snags. They run into...
They learn as they go.
Things are still out at sea on the ships. Things are lost in shipment. So what do? You adjust as you go. And so I think our ego, our mind, especially if you have an organized mind, Amy has this really organized mind, which is a gift. She has this organizational gift, organizational skills. And so the analytical side of her, sometimes it wants to box things and build compartmentalize, and that's fine to a degree,
because I don't want to miss anything,
right?
Because I value all these different things, and so I want to make sure everything has their place of
right. And then if we're not careful, like we're talking about, like she's admitting, is you can get into perfectionism, and then if something goes like something out of left field comes, it's like, oh, wait a minute, that's not part of my organizational box here. And so the flexibility, what we're saying is the flexibility is 18 inches down. As we drop down more into heart-centered consciousness, then we find ourselves being like the elastic rubber band, more flexible. Yes, it's great to have organization. I mean, without it, Amy's been awesome with all the organizations she's done over the years, just in our own lives. It's a real gift, and it's awesome. But it's like the elasticity we've had to go through has been a lot.
Yeah.
Same with you guys.
Our journey always just pulling you different ways.
Oh yeah.
And, I know for me this last year, I have had to really learn to let go of any future expectations or ideas, like even 2 weeks ahead, where God was just disciplining me to just stay in the present now, because the moment you plan something out in the future, it changes, and so then what's that lead to? Hope deferred, or broken expectations, and then it challenges your trust, or can you even trust yourself and what you're believing or seeing, and just it's constantly breaking apart any kind of forming rigidity that could happen there. And what's that all stem from? Pain of the past. And I know for me, when I've found myself getting too rigid, it's because I'm trying to save myself from further pain or repeating past mistakes, right? I know a lot of us can go through that.
Yeah, we all go through this to some degree, but
you gotta have that lubricant grace there.
Yeah, and why are a lot of us in this place right now where we can't lay hold of anything? It's like without our grasp. What I picture is a guy in space floating around, or a woman in space floating around, and you have nothing to grab onto, and that is what it feels like right now. And that is okay, because
you're allowed to feel that
we're
way.
in that hallway, so to speak, of ascension. And so because the whole of humanity is ascending, it's going fast, it's going quick. And so when you try to lay hold of something one way, it's taken from you so that you can find safety in the now.
And in the new way.
In the new way and the now.
The next level, the next expansion, instead of being dug into the old expansion you were in for years that you, quote, mastered and found your identity in. It's like,
doesn't work anymore.
Life on Earth is all about growth, transition, flexibility, all of that. I mean, otherwise you'll crack and break, you know, and be stuck in the trap of perfection, hitting the ceiling of unobtainable, and so bumping your head constantly.
Yeah. So when we're talking about the learning thing and the learning curve, it takes time. And this is why we really believe now more than ever in this whole Kaizen way, you know, example is like, wait a minute, slow, steady improvement is what builds strong structures. It's what builds businesses that last. It's what relationships, strong, lasting relationships are built upon, is this steady foundation of slow, steady improvement. And again, listen to those words. Slow means staying present. Steady means I'm not doing this out of any egoic effort. This is steady, meaning that my foundation is in the now, is in the current moment. And then improvement, so you're not stagnant, means that the minute you get paralyzed saying, I got to get this done now, I got to move through this now, because after all, I got to get out of this job I can't stand.
Exactly.
And then you're
it's the wrong energy to be operating from.
Yeah. The improvement part comes when we're not paralyzed by that very mindset.
Trying to escape something.
Yeah. So slow, steady improvement is what Japan's whole society really is built upon. And think about it, the Toyota Corporation, this is where this concept came from an American that actually brought it to Japan, or the concept was brought there into the Toyota Corporation. And we all know, whether you like them or not, Toyotas are built well.
Yep.
And they last.
Right.
So
built to last.
Built to last. And saying that in general, we don't need to get in the weeds on that. I'm just saying that in general. Toyotas that we've had, anyway, have lasted. So you look at the whole picture when we're talking about this, is like, do you feel hurried? Do you feel rushed? Do you feel pushed and forced?
Are you in survival? Are you trying to create out of survival?
That's the question you have to ask yourself. And if you are, then you're more in the egoic head.
Right. Where these slow, steady improvements really is the way of the spirit, and it's the way of creation, because you look at everything in creation that God made, it is a slow, steady unfolding in its seasons, in its process. It's not rushed, it's not. And so this is why, because our ego doesn't like that. Our ego wants it totally is stemmed and go big or go home.
Gratification.
I need the biggest, the best. I need to make an impact. I need to achieve these massive things, and everything's big with the ego. But if you notice, everything also is never enough with the ego, right? And so then that's when you hit on the tracks of unobtainable and you crash and burn, where the small, steady improvements is the way of the spirit, because you are now, it's just like God was telling me last night. He goes, we really want you to value where you're at right now as just important as to where you're going. And so it's the chewing and digesting and savoring what you're learning right now, so you don't have indigestion in the future, so you don't miss the nutrients that you need to build off of that are required for the next step or the next phase of your life. And so, but the ego wants a return. It wants a reward. Its mindset is, if I do something big, then there's a big reward at the end of it. And we can't, it's not sustainable to keep living off of these big hits. And, and we all know, just in the natural with addictions or drugs, it's never enough, right? You got to increase whatever that addiction is to get the hit again. you know, where it may have started small. Now I'm not getting the hit I was used to get, so now I got to increase it. Now I got to increase it. Now I got to increase it. You know.
Yeah, and then the instant gratification part, we are conditioned,
It's workaholics,
especially in America and Western nations. We're conditioned for the drive-through instant gratification model, and we've been so enamored, so hammered with this on TV and Starbucks and all this stuff. It's like, if I don't get it now instantly, then I'm not fine.
Right.
I'm not okay.
Yeah.
And then it makes us feel like, see, here's feelings that are egoically attached. It makes you feel like, well, nothing's working out for me, so I'm going to go have a third Big Mac. You know, or I'm going to have a third pizza. We heard somebody talk about this the other day.
So I can plummet and then overcome it and achieve my overcoming.
Yeah, and it's this mad cycle of ups and downs, highs and lows, and instant gratification. And then we wonder why we're stuck. We wonder why we're not improving in a way that's sustainable. And so anytime you have this instant gratification, it puts us in a state that says, okay, like a friend of mine said, real simple guy, but at the time not much vision. Years ago he said, listen, all I need is my cup of coffee and my cigarette and my deep fried burrito for lunch. And this was years ago, and I remember him saying that, and that's exactly what he did. And he was, quote, seemingly content and happy, but inside, though, internally, he was trying to cover up something through this instant gratification. His real desire, come to find out years later, was, and what he's gifted at is computers. You know, it's like a computer mind, a computer whiz, and he wasn't doing that at the time. He was doing landscaping, and so we cover up, and then we convince ourselves. We try to convince ourselves. The ego, hey, you're okay. You're okay. No, like Amy said, the ego's never satisfied. It's never okay.
Right.
And so it's always trying to find these instant fixes.
Yeah, and if you don't get it the first time, we get pummeled with a bunch of shame, don't we? Like, see, you're not smart enough, you're not this enough, you're incapable, you're incompatible, you're, on whatever, all these different things. And so the shame just stacks on like a steamroller. And then that's when we just flatline, in our energy. And it's crazy. And it's just like, where are these voices coming from, right? Who told us that?
Yeah.
And
it's not us. It's not the real us.
And it's not God. And yesterday God was just telling me, look, I give ample grace. He goes, here's the difference. When you're connected and you're consciously aware you're connected, then you're receiving my grace flow for you to learn at the pace you're designed to go, not with anybody else. You have your own journey, your own path. So there is ample grace to learn at the pace you're designed for. And when we're not in that and we're disconnected, that's when comes in all the frustration and the comparisons and the competing and us plummeting. Like, why should I even be on this earth? I'm a failure. I can't keep up with the trends, or I can't keep up with the new technology and overwhelmment, right? Which is so huge. Isn't it just like with Facebook, YouTube, social media, there's always something new coming out, that somebody is pumping up a new product or a new thing you got to try, or a new add-on to your computers, or a new app, or new everything. And just when you get down the last one, right? And it's just, again, you get into the trap of unattainability and perfection.
Yeah, or some people just assume that TikTok is a certain way, or Instagram, or whatever the fad is. So they assume, well, I heard that TikTok is for all these young people, and I just, it's too complicated. When in reality, it's not just for young people anymore. It's becoming the most popular app for businesses,
even
for
over Instagram,
older, mature people, and all of that. So, and it's as simple as downloading it, signing up, going in, clicking on the plus button there for with the symbol
Yeah.
for
We have to just be
for
willing
recording
to learn something new.
And the thing is just jump in. And
Yeah.
you're not going to get it right the first time, more than likely.
Allow yourself to not get it right.
Allow yourself the freedom of making mistakes. And you know what? This is called relatability to people, because they go, oh man, look at that, I've done the same thing. And they relate to people that make mistakes. They relate to people that fumble around. You know, it's a relatability factor. The perfectionism, looking really good, like you don't want to make any mistakes, that mindset, that's third density,
and it's heavy, and it's fading.
Over with.
It's totally over with. This whole, and you know, John and I were talking about this last night, of just, again, back to the social media and this facade of perfection that makes you feel like totally, you know, like there's just, it's unobtainable again. And because we aren't being showed their mistakes. We're not being showed all the things they deleted from their pictures, or their editing of their videos, or them sharing the stories of how they wanted to quit. There's very few. There is a majority out there that are coming out really being relatable and honest. But the 3D territory for decades has been, don't show your weakness, or nobody will follow you.
That's a whole nother message right there. Jeez.
And, you know, you have to be perfect. Especially, I think, even back in the 50s and 60s. You think of all the advertisements. Everything was perfection, you know, and the Leave It to Beaver era, too. Nobody shares what's going on behind the scenes. Everybody has to portray the perfect family.
Wearing a suit at home.
Yeah, and the wife wearing her heels while she cleans the kitchen.
Right.
I mean, it's just like, really? But she's not sharing how her feet are bruised. She has to put Band-Aids on at night on her toes. And she has resentment towards society and her husband because she has to clean house in heels. And
nobody's seeing she smokes 2 packs of cigarettes out behind the kitchen.
Right. But she slaps a lick stick on right before she goes and films. So, I mean...
and she wants to scream her brains out saying, I hate you, you know. So it's like,
but the facade and lie makes you think
it is
what I feel is not acceptable, because that's how I feel, but they make everything look so perfect, so I'm not good enough.
It's no different today with the social media influencers.
That's what I'm saying.
It's
a portrayal.
When it's a portrayal. And what I loved, sometimes we chime in to Dancing with the Stars because we love the art of dance, not the half-naked people, all right? It's we like the art of dance, so we can compartmentalize this stuff. So there was a social media influencer on there, Charlie. She is a mega influencer on TikTok. She has hundreds of millions of followers and all this. So she had a mental breakdown before coming on the show a while back, where she said, I just got so depressed and all this because I felt like I had to be perfect, and then I got ripped apart. And
she lost her love for dance because people online were saying, you're not a dancer.
Picking her apart, right?
Yeah.
And she had to feel like she had to be perfect. Well, the beauty of this, coming on to Dancing with the Stars, is her and Mark Ballas, right? Yeah. They started talking, and he said he lost his love for dance, so he quit the show for 5 years.
You guys know that watch it. Him and, he's Derek. One of the best. Him and Derek Huff are like, gosh, these
phenomenal dancers.
Unreal, and choreographers.
Yeah, so they're talking back and forth. Say, and this is why we're so relatable to each other, because now we can help each other. We feel like we've gotten the love for dance back. Why? Because you're not perfect on that show. You ever notice that? You are improving, slow, steady improvement.
But you don't see the hours they put in to have that perfect dance within the hour you're watching it.
The bruises, the cuts, the
heads
sprains,
banged on the floor from trying to do a lift. I mean,
all that stuff, and then when you get out on the dance floor, things look, quote, perfect.
Yeah.
However, you see the backstory of this going, oh, okay, Charlie's seeing something different about her inner world now. And it's bringing the love for dance back. And guess what? She's going to go back in a different way. I guarantee it.
She's doing it for her now.
She's doing it for her now, not for the people. And that's the key, guys, right there. You just hit it.
Your own path.
Do it for you.
Yes.
And do it for service.
Right.
Do it for you and for service. That way, you're not doing it for money. Like right now, we're not saying you have to pay us for this. We're not doing this for money. it doesn't even come up other than to mention it like this, saying, if you're doing it purely from the art of it, from the creativity of it, for it to help people in service for no other reason, then you're going to be real, you're going to be authentic to who you are, you're going to be relatable, and then you're going to be like, who cares if I mess up?
Yeah.
You know, some people don't like Amy and I talking over ourselves, and we've done it several times so far in this broadcast, and we're more hard on ourselves, going, why do we talk over ourselves? Why do we do that? Some people have commented and said, I can't hear you individually. And sometimes we can't help it, okay, guys? So forgive us for that. We get excited, okay? we get excited.
In my mind, I think I'm chiming in agreement with him.
Well, same here.
You know?
Same here. I get excited and want to interject. So we're improving on that slow, steady improvement, but also we want to be true to ourselves. So if it annoys you, please overlook it. If you don't care, then awesome. Just know that we're always improving. And so it's self-awareness. That's key. Are you aware that you're trying to be perfect? Are you aware that you're compartmentalizing? Are you aware of these things? Self-awareness is just about everything. It really is.
Or aware that you might be losing yourself and your authentic voice because so many people on the line are telling you how to do something a certain way. And so you're trying to learn everything their way instead of going within and saying, okay, God, what is my own authentic expression in this that I need to bring to the table of earth here? You know, that why you've come, and not to try to do it like everybody else is doing it. You know, glean some of the technical tips and different things and pointers they give, which is so good, but not lose your authentic flow and being okay again with your pace and your path, you know, and where God is walking this out with you.
We're not competing.
Yeah.
We're not, this isn't a competition, friends. We've been conditioned through sports, through all these competitive things, the American Ninja. I mean, we're all, it's a big competition. And then people say, well, I love a good competition. Well, what does that mean? Is you're not owning your own frame entirely, because I tell you what, some of the best in the world look at themselves and they, quote, compete against themselves before they do anyone else. Mm-hmm. They're looking at, how far can I push this body? How far can I ascend in this craft or whatever it is, right? They want to be the best of the best for themselves first. Why? For service and authenticity.
And we get the overflow of that.
Yeah, and so you see that when somebody's fully in their own frame, and like one guy said online, Aaron, this guy that we sometimes listen to, he says, when you're not in your own, owning your own frame, meaning you're owning your own authenticity, your own self of who you really are, then you walk around like a little kid saying, are you my frame? Mm-hmm. Are you my frame? Are you my frame? We do that all the time. And through competition, like, oh, I wish I could sing like that.
Yeah,
oh,
so
I wish I could be like that. And not even realizing, some of these people have said this to us. They say, oh, I wish I could be that. And we're like, are you kidding me? Look at all the gifts you have. Look at all the talents you have. Mm-hmm. Look at the abilities. Own your frame. Own who you are. And then be willing to be messy in it.
Right. Because, and he goes on to say, he goes, you're the hero in your own reality. In your frame, you are the hero of your own reality. And so there is no comparison. There is no competition. You're loving yourself and celebrating who you are and your own accomplishments. Because really, who else? Nobody else is going to do it for you. You know, they may here and there, but you can't be dependent on that. And that's when you keep trying to survive and reach for everybody else to validate you. And at some point, we all have to choose to validate ourselves, encourage ourselves, celebrate the little things we're doing, and that God knows us better than anybody else. So to choose to stay connected and hear what He's saying about us and be in agreement with that, instead of trying to get it out of anybody else to notice us or hear us or understand us. Nobody is going to fully, because they haven't walked in your shoes. They've walked in their shoes. So they're only going to see you through their own shoes and their own glasses.
Yeah,
you know?
And
so
this is why religion doesn't work, because religion is so cookie cutter. You know, religion is so not authentic to who that person truly is. What we do is we try to frame them in, box them in with protocols and processes to say you have to be perfect, because if you're not, in the way that I think you're supposed to be perfect. In other words, what they're saying is you need to be in this frame the way I, or religion or formula says you have to be. And whenever we do that without realizing and even acknowledging, like, God, I don't know how to do this life thing. I don't know how to be authentic. I don't know how to be, because I've been so conditioned to be otherwise, because of my mom or my dad or the pastor or the priest or whatever says that I have to be this, this, and this in order to be right with God, or to be perfect in his eyes. They misquote that scripture. It says, be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. You know what that really means? It means, that word perfect means mature like love, mature like Christ. So meaning, maturity takes time, slow, steady improvement.
By what you learn.
When they misquote it and we misunderstand that word perfect, it means, oh, I have to be perfect right now. I have to get everything right. I have to cross all my T's, dot all my I's. I have to do all the formulas. I have to jump through the hoops.
Burnout is waiting to happen right there. And again, it's the unobtainable, all these expectations and pressures and judgments, and you're feeling it from everybody and everywhere, all the things, standards you feel like you have to live up to, all these high standards we place on ourselves. And it's not coming from God, and we know that, but at some point we have to really sit and be with that and allow ourselves, I am allowed not to be perfect. I am allowed to make mistakes. I'm allowed to receive ample grace from God. I'm allowed to not know what's going on in my life, and that's okay.
It's allowing the child in you that has scraped their knee to cry it out, and to hold them while you're crying out. You don't go to your child if you love them and you say, what'd you do that for, stupid? Get over it. Get over the gushing blood coming out of your knee. Get over it already. Be perfect as I am perfect. You do that if you're a narcissist or a psychopath, right? But if you're not, then what you do, you hold your child, you nurture them, you say it's going to be okay. You're allowed to feel that way. We're so conditioned in society, especially boys, to say, suck it up, don't cry, you're not a man. And what that's done has had detrimental effects on men especially, and then ultimately affects the entire family. So, and then women are made to be, you have to look a certain way to be perfect, right?
Yeah.
You have to get your ducks in a row. Now the thing is, if you're not leading as a powerful woman with short hair, if you're not leading as a powerful feminist, owning being the CEO, owning the corporation, it's like, that's perfectionism, you guys. That is unobtainable. It is unobtainable.
Yeah.
And trying to be something that society has conditioned us to believe, instead of just walk around in your sweatpants sometimes. Walk around with no makeup on, and from a legit place, not this thing. We see people all the time get on.
Yeah, then there's the other side.
Then there's the other side of this, where they get on video, they get on Facebook, Instagram, they get on there with their hair all messed up, no makeup, and you can tell what's fake, right? They get on there because somebody else is doing it that way, and they think it's attractive. No, you can tell the difference between somebody like that's cookie cutter-ish, and then the difference between somebody that says, being real. I'm going to wear sweatpants and no makeup for me this time, because I don't want to feel the conditioning anymore.
Be controlled by it.
And then loving the little girl inside into wholeness. That's what that's about.
Yeah, it has a different energy and feel to it. They're not trying to draw sympathy from you. Self-pity and look at me, and then they elongate their words.
It's so hard.
They dump on you, really, right? They dump on you on Facebook or social media. There's a difference between just being real and authentic and just, we can all feel the vibe off it, right? So.
Yeah, so anyway.
Yeah, discernment on that, right?
There's so much we could talk about it, but we'll drop it right there for now. And just hope this helps. you guys, because we've gone through it just like everybody else, and we're realizing as we drop down more into heart-centeredness that just how much stuff the ego tries to dictate to us.
Right. And to just not force things, right, you guys? We know, it's so easy because I've heard it said, if you're so focused on the problem, you won't be able to see the solution because you're just hammering away, hoping that you'll uncover the solution. And it's only when we let up off that pedal, go rest, still ourselves, take a deep breath, shift, go for a walk, do something, that then the solution can actually come in and there's no more resistance there. And
paddles up.
Yeah, paddles up. Like I said, I had to paddles up so many times yesterday, but it was good because God was just purging me and going underneath it all and where this is coming from and the beliefs. He was just exposing the beliefs that were driving it. And but the unattainable, we are free. We do not have to be stuck in this trap of perfection. So we just want to encourage you guys to allow yourselves to lift the judgments and expectations off yourself.
You have permission to feel that way.
That's right. And just be on your own journey with God.
All right. Until next time, we love you guys. Thanks so much for listening in and sharing these podcasts where you feel led. And just know that you are complete right now. That in God's eyes, you are complete right now. There is no more improving upon the beauty of who you are.
You're allowed to be where you're at right now.
The slow, steady improvement that we're talking about, which I think you get by now, is the unveiling of what the world is like 18 inches down. So, more on that one
in
later.
Your heart.
All right, we love you.
Take care.